Hello, I'm Tessa Spencer, an archivist in the Outreach and Learning team at the National Records of Scotland, NRS. Thank you for inviting me to speak at the Scottish Indexes Conference. This talk will provide an introduction to the Ordnance Survey Name Books and historical tax rolls, which were released on Scotland's People in June 2025. Previously, these records were made available on the Scotland's Places website, which was hosted by Historic Environment Scotland and closed in June. I will explain what these records are, how you can access and use them for research purposes, and highlight some interesting and surprising examples. But first, a quick overview of the NRS. Who are we? Where are we? And what do we do and hold? NRS is a non-ministerial department of the Scottish Government and was established on the 1st of April 2011, following the merger of the National Archives of Scotland and the General Register Office for Scotland. We have a duty to collect, preserve, and produce information about Scotland's people and history, and make it available to inform current and future generations. NRS holds around 80 kilometres, 49.7 miles of records, dating from the 12th to the 21st centuries, which are stored in secure and temperature-controlled rooms. We also hold 1.7 million digital records, that is 2.7 terabytes of data, which is equivalent to approximately 225 million A4 bits of paper. We are responsible for the public and legal records of Scotland, but we also have many local and private archives. They relate to a variety of subjects, including the church, law, government, and everyday life. We hold and make available one of the most varied archive collections of records in Britain. We will now turn our attention to the Ordnance Survey OS Name Books, or Original Object Name Books. They list every Scottish place name found on the first edition OS maps of Scotland. They comprise the earliest complete gazetteer of Scottish place names. The name books, along with modern transcriptions, can be searched and viewed on Scotland's People. They provide information about almost every man-made and natural features of the landscape that inform the first edition of the OS mapping of Scotland, which took place from the 1840s to 1878. This sketch of 3 Pictish symbol stones can be found in the Aberdeenshire OS name books. The description tells us that they were found in the moor of Carden and now built into the wall on the east side of the Turnpike Road, where the north approach to the house of Logie Elphinstone leaves it. The collector also details Sir J.D.H. Elphinstone's plans to move them closer to his residence, which was carried out after the survey. The collector also states that the sculpturing on 2 of them is pretty perfect. The third is a little defaced. The OS field surveyors or officers conducted the survey from 1843. Initially, it was planned to start work in the central belt of Scotland and then head north. However, it was suggested that areas further north in need of agricultural development should be prioritised. Subsequently, the Isle of Lewis was comprehensively surveyed by the OS. Due to disagreements over which scale should be used and a lack of staffing, it was not until 1859 that the lowlands were completed. By 1856, there were 6 OS officers surveying across Scotland, but they were complemented by 204 privates from the Corps of Royal Engineers. Also, that same year, 416 civil assistants, abbreviated in the OS namebooks to CA or C-A, and 300 labourers were employed to collect the topographical information. The name books are arranged by county, and the number of volumes for each county varies. The collectors who gathered the geographical information listed place names by parish, and the parish name can often be found at the top of each page. A list of the OS name books arranged by county alphabetically and the dates they were surveyed, and their NRS catalogue reference number is given in the record guide, which I will highlight later on. The original object name books used in Scotland came in two forms, each with a different system of headed columns. The first type, commonly used in surveying and naming the Highland parishes, was essentially a field version of the name book and had 5 headings: received name, object, description, township or parish, and authority for spelling, with their names and addresses. The collector, sometimes referred to as an examiner, usually an officer in the Ordnance Survey, would consult local historians and entomologists, called authorities in the books, in order to correct the spelling, the received name of each object, the natural feature, inhabited place, building, and so on. This example of the first type of the name books is from Clackmannanshire County, which describes the place Look About Ye Bray. The column headed descriptive remarks or other general observations which may be considered of interest helpfully informs us of its appearance and the origin of this unusual place name. A steep brae or slope which dips abruptly into the low karst land, about 1/2 mile south of Clackmannan. According to tradition, the name is derived from the circumstance of one of the Scottish kings, James III, in hunting one day, having suddenly stopped and remarked to those who were near him that it was a fine place to look about ye. The spelling of this place name has been confirmed by 3 individuals, including a Reverend Peter Balfour, seen in columns 2 and 3. If a search is made for the same place name today using an online search engine, the origins of the place name concerns a hunting trip in the area by Robert the Bruce, who, on losing a glove, instructs his men to look about ye for it. It is an interesting variation on the story cited in the Victorian OS Namebook. The collectors relied on knowledgeable locals to supply them with accurate names. Their instructions were to consult landowners and their agents first, then other people of standing, such as parish ministers, postmasters, and school teachers. In practice, and especially in remoter areas, they turned to tenants, shepherds, and labourers. In Gaelic-speaking areas, they sometimes worked through interpreters. A second type of namebook, used commonly in the lowlands, had an additional column, orthography, as recommended to be used in the new plans. Another column of descriptive remarks or other general observations which may be considered of interest usually duplicated the information contained in the description column, but additional information was sometimes given. This fuller version was completed by staff in the local AOS office, who might have added further information from sources such as early maps, historical texts, or local scholarly bodies. This example of the second type of namebook with 6 headings records the Register Office, now known as General Register House in Edinburgh, where I work today. A large and handsome structure after a plan by the celebrated Robert Adam. It forms a square of 200 feet on each side and contains 100 apartments for the dispatch of public business. In the interior of the square is a circular building surmounted with a dome and containing a marble statue of George III. At each angle of the building is a small square turret. These towards the front have indexes showing the direction of the wind. There also a clock. In this building are deposited all state papers, copies of title deeds of property, contracts, mortgages, documents made of in actions before the Court of Session, etc. A stone runs in front of the building, and on a platform in the centre is to be erected an equestrian statue of the Duke of Wellington. This description of General Register House is still accurate today, although the types of records held within it have increased. The name book also notes that the building has been recorded as Register House and Register Office, and the authority for these names is from the existent maps. Gazetteers and maps were also consulted to accurately inform the OS name books. You can search the OS name books on the Scotland's People website, at the Scotland's People Centre at General Register House in Edinburgh, and local family history centres in Scotland. For those unfamiliar with Scotland's People, it is the official Scottish Government resource where you can access digital images of the open census records, statutory registers of births, deaths, and marriages, old parish registers, legal records, and more. You can register an account and browse the indexes for free. You can also you can also view indexed images on a pay-per-view basis and browse images in virtual volumes for free. Nearly 2,000 volumes of OS namebooks covering all of Scotland and the islands can be searched and viewed within the virtual volumes area of the Scotland's People website. To search the OS namebooks, click on Virtual Volumes on the home page. This will take you to the Virtual Volumes landing page. Then select the orange arrow for Ordnance Survey Name Books. Within the OS Namebook search area, there are two distinct forms. The Search OS Namebooks form allows you to search the volumes using some or all of the following search fields: record type for a list of counties, year range, so year from to year to, a place search to search by county, borough, city, or town, but not the names of objects, e.g., settlements, farms, buildings, geographical features, etc. Transcription search to search plain text transcriptions of the manuscript or printed text in the volumes if available, and reference if you know the volume reference you require. For example, OS1 4 3 is a volume for Banff County. A link to the NRS public catalogue is provided. The OS namebooks have descriptions which include parish, borough, town, and city names. By entering a search term into the place search field, you can search these descriptions for a particular place. If the place search field is used, your search will produce a list of volumes that meet the search criteria. In this example, we are searching for Aberlady in the place search field. Two results are returned. You can see that the term Aberlady is included in each result in the short description column. You can then open each entry by clicking on the View link to browse the volumes. You can now see the image for the first entry relating to Aberlady. You can view the images for free with the Scotland's People watermarks. However, you can pay a fee of 50p, 2 credits, to save a clean copy to your account. The fee is in line with the search room copy fees at NRS. There is an option to view the stacked and side-by-side views for the image and transcription. The stacked view is the default, but side-by-side is useful for viewing the transcription against the image, as I have shown in this example. You can also use the image controls above the image to zoom in and out of an image. The text in most of the OS namebooks has been fully transcribed through a crowdsourcing project. The transcription is a plain text copy of the manuscript or printed text on the original record. These transcriptions were captured over a number of years as a volunteer project. It is acknowledged that these are not 100% accurate, but they are provided as a useful finding aid for researchers. You can use the transcription search field to search the transcriptions for specific keywords, such as a place or individual name. If any search term is entered into the transcription search field, the results will return a set of results arranged by record type in the format shown in this example for the search term Register Office. Note that I have selected the exact phrase option. This search replaces the keyword search field that used to be available in the top right-hand corner of Scotland's places, and it should be used for searching for object names in the volumes. From the results, we select Midlothian and then Midlothian volume 99 and then page 31, and this will open the entry for General Register House, which I highlighted earlier. Any search without a term in the transcription search field will return a list of volumes. Any search which does not include a term in the transcription search field will return results in the list format as shown. Please note that if you include a term in the place search field, you cannot search using the transcription search and vice versa. For both these fields, you can use the Search Tools option to tailor your results to include any word in your search, all words, or an exact phrase. The Search Place Names in OS Namebooks function allows you to search the volumes for particular locations listed in the namebook indexes. These locations, referred to as objects, can include places such as buildings or landscape features, either natural or man-made. The search form includes a list of counties. One county at a time can be selected from the drop-down list, for example, Midlothian. Place names can be selected from the second drop-down list. As you type into the place name search field, the list of place names reduces. For example, typing REGI will reduce the list to begin with those places which begin with REGI, the drop-down list as shown in this example. In this example, the place name Register Office is selected. The user can click on View and this will open the relevant volume at the page, which includes Register Office. The place names given in the place name drop-down are derived from handwritten indexes in the volumes. You can view images of the original index pages, and these can be found using the volume context function within the image viewer. For more information on using volume contents, please see our Virtual Volumes user guidance, a link to which will be provided later on. There are a number of OS namebooks missing from NRS's collection. During the Second World War, while the OS namebooks were stored at Southampton in England, they were damaged during an air raid. In these attacks, the main stores took a direct hit, and the subsequent fire destroyed, among many other valuable documents, nearly all the namebooks for England and Wales. The Perthshire Survey of 1859 to 1864 was particularly affected. Among the volumes destroyed were those covering the whole extent of the county surveyed at the scale of 6 inches to 1 mile, certain detached parts of parishes, and the following parishes surveyed at 25 inches to 1 mile: Angasc, Balchwider, Blair Athol, Comrie, Fortingall, Kenmore, Killin, Kirkmichael, Moulin, and Weem. It is probable that many of the 6-inch scale namebooks for Perthshire, including those for Menteith, suffered the same fate, although the 25-inch namebooks for Menteith did survive. The OS namebooks were revised between 1892 to 1952 and are referred to as Ordnance Survey Name Books Second Revision Series. The NRS reference is OS2. For those records not available in Scotland's people, Further information can be found by consulting the NRS online public catalogue, which I will highlight later on in this talk. These records can be viewed by prior appointment in the NRS Historical Search Room at General Register House in Edinburgh. The related first edition 6-inch to the mile OS maps, curated from the name books, can be accessed on the National Library of Scotland's website. A link to the website is provided on the OS Namebook search form in virtual volumes, as well as this slide. The equivalent OS namebooks for England and Wales were destroyed during a bombing raid on the OS headquarters at Southampton in 1940. How are the OS namebooks useful for research purposes? They will be of particular interest to local and family historians hoping to gain insight into the evolution of the Scottish landscape and of the places their ancestors worked and lived. They can also provide insight into the sources of names, their meanings, different spellings of place names, archaeological finds, and the individuals involved in collecting this information. The Scots language inevitably influenced many of the place names across Scotland. Many of the naming terms come from the natural habitat and wildlife of the surrounding landscape. Gowk's Hill in Banffshire has a brief description explaining the name's origin in Scots and its appearance. This name means literally the Cuckoo's Hill, a small eminence covered with fir wood and situated north of the farm of Bodin Finnock. We can also see in this example that the collector M. Campbell, C/A, civil assistant, has referred to the valuation rolls for 1863 to 4 for the county to assist with the spelling of the other place names on the same page. In the Berwickshire name books, we find the place name Brockholes, Brock meaning badger. The name book describes Brockholes as a steep and lofty hill near Grant's house, sloping to the banks of the Eyewater. It is supposed to obtain its name from a number of brocks, badgers, having made their holes on the hillside. Brocks can be found in the naming of many places across Scotland. Although many of the place names or objects featured in the name books have detailed descriptions and sometimes illustrations to help convey information, sometimes the collector is at a loss for words or explanation. The Big Stone of Morangi, located near the Glenmorangie distillery in the parish of Tain, Ross and Cromarty, has the distinction of being inscribed with the words, "The Immortal Walter Scott, O.B. 1832. This inscription is far from clear, however, as there seems to be a few links with the area and the writer. The description states that this stone stands about 7 feet high, is of an oblong shape, the upper portion being rounded off by the action of the weather. The grandfather of the present proprietor, H. Rose, has had cut on the portion facing the road the following sentence: The immortal Walter Scott, O.B. 1832. There is nothing more known about it. It is simply a big stone, hence its name." The OS name books are a rich source for researchers of the 19th century. They can include information on social history, folklore, and the natural landscape. As we have seen, these records can offer insight into the evolution of the Scottish landscape and of the places our ancestors worked and lived. They also provide understanding into the sources of names, their meanings, different spellings of place names, archaeological finds, and the individuals involved in collecting this information. We will now turn our attention to the historical tax rolls. There are 15 different types of historical tax rolls from the late 17th to the early 19th centuries available to search on Scotland's people. They list a large variety of people, from cottars to dukes in each of Scotland's parishes and boroughs. These include taxes on hearths or fireplaces, windows, servants, carts and carriages, horses and dogs. They are from the Exchequer records held by the NRS. The Exchequer is one of the earliest government departments which developed out of the King's Chamber. It was the branch of the royal household which oversaw the royal finances at a time when Scotland was an independent kingdom. Until the 17th century, taxes were viewed as an extraordinary source of revenue and levied for specific purposes such as the defence of the realm. The burden of taxation originally fell on the land and property owned by the barons, boroughs, and the church. However, by the end of the century, the government sought to broaden the tax base by taxing other forms of property. To provide a brief overview, these taxes have been divided into two tables. The first table lists the tax rolls imposed pre-Union, i.e. before the union of the English and Scottish Parliaments in 1707. In 1690, Parliament granted a tax of 14 shillings on every hearth or fireplace in the kingdom, payable by both landowners and tenants to raise money for the army. The land tax rolls, often called cess rolls or valuation rolls, were compiled by the Commissioners of Supply in each county to enable the collection of the land tax from 1667 onwards. Poll taxes were imposed in the 1690s to pay off the debts due to the county and arrears of the army and navy. The second table lists the assessed tax rolls levied post-Union. The tax rolls are arranged chronologically with their covering dates and NRS reference numbers. After 1748, certain assessed taxes were levied in Scotland. The window, commutation, inhabited house, and consolidated assessed taxes were all taxes on householders, though in practice only the better off were taxed. In the case of the window tax, the house had to have at least 7 windows or a rent of at least £5 to be taxed. The war with France from 1793 onwards resulted in the extension of taxation to other forms of property and imposed additional duties on those already taxed. The records of each tax are organised by county and parish, with royal boroughs listed separately. As with the OS name books, the tax rolls can be searched and viewed within the Virtual Volumes area of the Scotland's People website. Click on Virtual Volumes on the home page. This will take you to the Virtual Volumes landing page, then select Tax Rolls Search. Using the Tax Rolls search form, you can search and view volumes as well as search plain text transcriptions of the records. Specifically, you can search the tax rolls using some or all of the following index fields: the record type, a list of the types of tax roll, the year range, year from to year to, place name to search for a county, borough, city, etc., transcription search. This will search plain text transcriptions of the volumes, and reference if you know the NRS archive reference for the volume you require. The tax rolls have descriptions which include the relevant counties or administrative areas, for example, parishes, presbyteries, etc., for each volume. By entering a search term into the place search field, you can search for tax rolls from a particular county, borough, city, etc. The text in many of the tax rolls has been fully transcribed. However, transcriptions are not available for the window tax, inhabited house tax, and the consolidated schedules of assessed taxes. As previously noted for the OS name books, the transcription is a plain text version of the manuscript or printed text found in the image. These transcriptions were captured over a number of years as a volunteer project. It's acknowledged that these are not 100% accurate, but they are provided as a useful finding aid for researchers. You can use the transcription search field to search the transcriptions for specific keywords, such as an individual name or other term. For example, Lord Advocate, using the exact phrase search option. Entering a keyword or phrase in the transcription search field will return a set of results arranged by record type, as shown in this example for Lord Advocate. Click on View to see the transcription for Lord Advocate, in this case for the dog tax. Here we can see the reference to Lord Advocate in the transcription for the dog tax with the relevant image. I have selected the side-by-side view rather than the default stacked view in order to view both. Any search without a term in the transcription search field will return a list of volume results. Any search which does include a term in the transcription search will return a set of results arranged by the record type as shown above. Please note that if you include a term in the place search field, you cannot search using the transcription search field and vice versa. For both these fields, you can use the Search Tools option to tailor your results to include any word in your search, all words, or an exact phrase, as I did with the Lord Advocate search earlier. When viewing a tax roll, you can view the volume contents list in the image viewer to jump to a relevant point in the volume. The contents list appears when you click on the tab Volume Contents on the navigation bar. It marks the start of each section in the volume. For tax rolls, this is usually an area name. The search form includes search tips for each field with links to more detailed research guides where appropriate. The male and female servant tax rolls have been indexed, which means they can be searched using the servant tax roll search. You can use this to easily search for individuals by name. Go to Search the Records at the top of the home page on Scotland's People. Once on this page, go to the Tax Records category at the foot of the page and select the Servant Tax Rolls. In the servant tax roll search, you can search on some of or all of the following index fields: surname, forename, master, servant or both, tax type, county, parish, borough, the description, so a place, occupation or title, and year from to year to. And this form includes tips for each field with links to more detailed research guides where appropriate. How are the tax rolls useful for research purposes? The records will be of particular interest to economic, family, local and social historians and researchers, providing a snapshot into people's lives. The tax rolls date from the last decade of the 17th century, during the reign of William and Mary, a time of foreign wars, economic troubles, famine, and poor weather. They reveal the extraordinary range of people who were liable to pay tax imposed to meet the cost of foreign wars and the defence of the kingdom. The Hearth tax rolls, 1691 to 1695, list everyone in Scotland who paid a one-off tax of 14 shillings on every hearth or fireplace, including kilns, in order to raise money for the army. This was payable at Candlemas on the 2nd of February 1691. Only the poor and hospitals were exempt. They reveal the names of people and their wealth by listing the size of each building, place, estate, and parish in the late 17th century. They provide the first comprehensive survey of all towns, villages, and other inhabited places in Scotland, showing household structures, living conditions, and who lived where at this time. This extract from the Hearth tax rolls for Edinburgh shows the number of people with different occupations living in proximity to one another in the old town of Edinburgh. In Provost Walwood's land, there are 15 people listed, including a barber, a tailor, a smith, a wright, a shoemaker, merchant, and 2 individuals reliant on charity. For William Gilchrist's land, there are 10 people listed, including 2 merchants and a periwig maker, a wig maker. The hearth tax rolls also show that there were huge difficulties in collecting the tax, particularly in the Highlands. Attempts continued until 1695 in some regions of Scotland. There are no records for Orkney, Shetland, Caithness, Ross, and Cromarty. Within the hearth tax rolls in Inchaloch parish in Buchanan, Stirlingshire, in 1694, there is a reference to Donald MacGregor. He may have been the father of Rob Roy MacGregor, 1671 to 1734, an outlaw and folk hero and well-known figure in Highland Romanticism. The hearth tax roll for Inchaloch provides little information about the individuals in the parish. However, it does list the named heads of families and the size of households, which are smaller than those in Edinburgh City. Hearth tax rolls are a valuable resource for researching rural and highland areas in Scotland and help augment surviving church registers. In the late 18th century, the government of William Pitt the Younger introduced many individual taxes, including duties on houses, windows, servants, carriages and carts, horses and dogs, and even clocks and watches. These were all taxes on householders, but in practice only the wealthy were taxed. From 1748 until 1851, taxes were levied on the occupants of buildings with several windows in boroughs and county parishes in Scotland. Only those with more financial means were taxed, so the usefulness of these records for research is limited. You may also find in some rural areas that the only people liable for tax were the minister and lairds. When the tax was first introduced, only those with 10 or more windows were liable to pay the duty, on a sliding scale from 6 pence to 1 shilling per window. From 1766, they list those with 7 or more windows, on a scale from 2 pence per window to 2 shillings per window if you had 25 or more. Near the top of the range of homes taxed was the Duke of Roxburgh's Flaws Castle near Kelso. The castle had 294 windows, which cost him £7 and 7 shillings in 1748. The Bank of England's inflation calculator estimates the cost at £1,330 and 35 pence as of May this year. The window tax was long seen as the reason for the number of windows apparently blocked up in buildings dating from the 18th century. However, this is likely to be more myth than fact. Blocking up a window would only have saved a few shillings per year, and it is unlikely to have been sufficient incentive for the well-off to give up their daylight. Many windows in Edinburgh's new town appear to have been blocked, but were in fact designed for architectural symmetry. By the time the window tax was abolished in 1851, it was referred to by Victorian health campaigners as a tax on light and air. The idiom daylight robbery is often linked to the window tax, though there appears to be no scholarly evidence for this. The servants' tax was levied on households employing non-essential female-male servants. This was primarily aimed at domestic personal servants in the town and country and excluded the majority of the servant class, such as farm labourers and people working in factories, inns, and shops. The tax was largely targeted at wealthy households which employed domestic and personal servants such as butlers, valets, coachmen, and gardeners. In Scotland, taxes on female servants were assessed between 1785 and 1792, and on male servants between 1777 and 1798. The tax rolls give the location, name of the master or mistress, i.e., the person in charge of the household, and usually the name of the servant. The Duke of Hamilton employed a huge retinue of 41 servants at Hamilton Palace in Lanarkshire in 1785. This extract from the male servants' tax roll shows the range of their occupations, including a valet de chambre, a cook, a butler, 4 footmen, 2 gardeners, 2 gamekeepers, 3 grooms, and 5 stable boys. The tax was not just the reserve of the ultra-preserve of the ultra-rich, but included those who were well off with more modest means. Mrs. Smollett of Bon Hill, the sister of Tobias Smollett, writer and surgeon, employed a total of 3 servants in 1785, a postilion, a gardener, and a female servant whose designation is not given. For further guidance on using the NOS name books and the historical tax rolls, please see our record guides and virtual volume guidance on the Scotland's People website. The NRS website provides information on records relating to Scotland's people, places, and history, and I've highlighted in red where you can find the link to the NRS online public catalogue, which I've referred to during this talk, and also the research guides. Each collection of records held by NRS has a catalogue or index to help you find the right material, whether it's a file or a single document. Most of the records we hold are described on an electronic database, the NRS online catalogue. The catalogue allows you to search descriptions of our records and is a good starting point for any research you wish to conduct. On the NRS YouTube channel, there's a short tutorial which provides a brief introduction on how to use the NRS's online catalogue to search for records relating to your research or area of interest. The online research guides have been compiled by members of staff and provide useful information about some of our most popular record sets and how they can be accessed. Different topics covered in NRS's records are listed alphabetically. These are currently linked to in the NRS web archive, but we hope they will be restored to the main site soon. Also on the NRS YouTube channel, there is a short tutorial which provides a brief introduction on how to access the NRS research guides and how they can help with your research. The Scottish Handwriting Resource on the Scotland's People website provides free online tuition in paleography for historians, genealogists, and other researchers who are looking for guidance on reading manuscript historical records written in Scotland in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries. The Scottish Handwriting Kit is a step-by-step guide to reading the handwriting of Scottish documents dating between 1500 and 1700 using facsimiles, mainly from NRS's archives. You can purchase a copy from the Scotland's People shop. There's also a free version downloadable from the NRS website. You could also sign up for the University of Glasgow course, Early Modern Scottish Paleography, Reading Scotland's Records. The Dictionaries of the Scots Language is a culmination of 2 major dictionaries of the Scots language in searchable format. The resource provides invaluable assistance with tracking down the meaning and historical origin of Scots words. You can explore more stories we have found in the OS name books and historical tax rolls and other record sets on the News and Articles page on the Scotland's People website, as well as articles on the NRS blog Open Book. On the Scotland's People shop, you can purchase our publications and branded products. Tracing Your Scottish Ancestors is the official guide to the records made available via Scotland's People. The paperback version of the 7th edition is packed with information on how to trace Scottish genealogy in the unique treasure trove of Scotland's National Archives. You can also purchase the ebook via the publisher Berlin's website. For history enthusiasts, you can purchase A1 and A3 size posters of the Declaration of Arbroath, which were produced for the 700th anniversary of the Declaration in 2020, celebrating this iconic document held by NRS. Our most recent publication, Treasures of National Records of Scotland, features highlights from our archive collections. You can keep up to date with news and events by subscribing to the Scotland's People newsletter through your account on Scotland's People and by following NRS on Scotland's People and Scotland's People on X and Facebook. I will finish this talk with this beautifully rendered picture symbol stone of a wolf. It was discovered by an OS collector at New Biggin Farm in Leslie, Aberdeenshire. The description said in the book, the stone is of the kind locally known as Benaki stone, and when found was in a sloping position having a sculptured face facing Benaki. This stone now stands nearby in the garden of Leith Hall. Thank you for listening to this talk. I hope you have found it of interest and useful for your research. I'm happy to answer any questions when I'm online at the conference. Alternatively, please submit a website inquiry via the Scotland's People Contact Us form at www.scotlandspeople.gov.uk/contact us. Thank you.